Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at when it's week to 10 days in today's video. It's going to take us into the second half of October. We're going to around the 20th of the month with this update. We've got cold easterly winds at the moment, or certainly quite cool easterly winds. I think we've seen low pressure becoming more influential over weekend and into next week. We'll start to see rain bands being generated. And it could turn quite wet actually for some parts of the country over weekend into start of next week. Detail on that is going to be really hard to pin down at this stage, but the general emphasis is on more unsettled conditions, so have a look at detail on that in a second. Also starting off with the CFS V2, there's been some big changes for October compared to what model was predicting just 3 weeks ago, so I'll show you that as well in a moment. But before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you'll be helping us to pay for our website, and thanks very much for doing that. So this was the CFS V2 700 millibar height anomaly forecast for October, generated back in the third week of September. And you see quite clearly what the model was going for was above average heights, high pressure to the south, and below average heights, low pressure to the north, which brings in a fairly flat westerly, southwesterly flow. So the idea was for westerly winds and probably quite a mild month as well, and nothing particularly out of the ordinary, fairly dry in the south, close to that ridge of high pressure. This is the latest anomaly for October. This was generated today, and look at that, huge changes. We've got all of this red up to the north and northeast, the north of Scotland, going into Scandinavia, which of course is over here, and also extending back in towards Russia. So a huge blocking feature there, sitting to the north, across the northern latitudes, and then underneath it we have these areas of low pressure. And the upshot, of course, is to be bringing the winds in from the east, something like that. So very dramatic difference from what's actually happening compared to what the model was predicting just 3 weeks ago. And as I always say with these long-range models, I always put in the health warning that it isn't to be relied upon, and this just demonstrates the reason why. Now, the charts are there, so you might as well look at them, and over the years, this CFS model has got better. I first started looking at this model, wasn't exactly this model, but it was the AVM model, back in the year 2000, when it's very, very unreliable. It morphed into the CFS and eventually has morphed into the CFS V2. So there's been a progression as we've gone along. The model has got better in some circumstances, but really long-range forecasting, particularly from long-range models, very much still in its infancy. And that's why the health warnings are always put in, that, okay, we'll look at the charts because they're there and it's always fun to see what they're showing, but don't take it too seriously, and that just demonstrates why you shouldn't. So we'll have a look at the temperature forecast as well. This is what model was predicting for October in terms of the temperatures for Europe 3 weeks ago. So this temperature anomaly goes with this pressure anomaly. You can see significantly warmer than average was the forecast for most parts of Europe this October. This is the actual anomaly as it is up to date, and again, huge differences. All of that red and orange that we have on this chart has been replaced by blue, below average temperatures, really from France over towards western parts of Russia. So significantly cooler than average month. It looks like it's unfolding for many parts of Europe after the model was forecasting just 3 weeks ago, not that long ago, just 3 weeks ago, the model was forecasting a warmer than average October. So always with these long-range models, not just the CFS V2, I'm picking the CFS out, but it applies to all the long-range models really, even the really good ones like the UK Met Office model, the ECMWS seasonal model. All of these long-range models do have a health warning and should be taken with a pinch of salt, whatever they are showing. Right, have a look at Central England temperature. Actually, we're not doing as badly as many parts of Europe in terms of cooler than average weather. So our anomaly is just 0.3 degrees below average with a CET provisional of 11.8. That is provisional up to a 9. That's set against 61 to 90. So if we was to compare this to a more modern average, a warmer average, such as 81 to 2010, we would have a bigger anomaly. We'd be over half a degree cooler than average. But even so, not as significant cooler than average anomaly at this stage. However, I think this probably will tick down a bit over the coming few days, because we are going to keep these easy winds certainly through to the end of the week, I should say, which will be cooler than average. But as we go through into the end of the week and into the weekend, and then next week, there is signs of a change, with perhaps the weather becoming more Atlantic driven, albeit still from quite a cool part of the North Atlantic. So these are the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. So we find that we've got the orange and red colours, which of course extrapolates to high pressure, still up to the north and northeast with the ECMWF, but we've got this trough centred over the UK. The jet stream is going to the south, so on the cool side of the jet, doing something like that with the jet stream. But instead of having easterly sourced air, we're probably bringing the air in from Greenland, from the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. So it'll still be quite cool, I would have thought, but more unsettled as well to add to the mix. Won't be the dry conditions, or mostly dry conditions, that we've got right now. Looks like we're going to be generating low pressure. The GFS is very similar, perhaps doesn't quite have that trough over country to the same degree. But the idea is still that the ridge is out to the east and northeast, and then probably bring the jet stream down through the country, something like that. As I say, it's not quite as strong a signal for a trough to be over the country in the week to 10 day time frame, but more or less the same sort of progression is taking place there. The ensembles look like this, and remember these are for the upper air temperatures. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, so we're cooler than average at the moment, staying that way towards the end of the week, and then the temperatures start to lift up over the weekend into next week, going back to the 30-year temperature average. So it's becoming less cold, if you like, not necessarily mild, but it's becoming less cold. But at the same time, notice all these precipitation spikes suddenly appearing. So whilst we've got this cool weather, and quite cold weather, it is mostly dry. We'll have showers coming off the North Sea into eastern parts of the country, but it'll be a lot of dry weather. But as we get through into the weekend and next week, then the rainfall spikes really come back, and that looks like going into quite a wet spell actually for the middle part of October. So temperatures lift up a bit, but we generate much more in the way of rainfall. Here's the GFS for Friday then. We're bringing in these easterly winds still. Low pressure is beginning to develop down to the south. That could bring some outbreaks of rain into southern parts of the country by the end of Friday. But I think essentially to the end of the week, it is looking mostly dry. But at the weekend, we find low pressure becoming increasingly influential from the south, particularly so for England and Wales, less so for Scotland. Here we remain close to all of this blocking up to the north, so it's probably going to be dry for Scotland over the weekend, but England and Wales, close to this area of low pressure down to the southwest, could be quite wet. Inside of next week, this is Monday, a week away, and low pressure is still sitting there over the south of the country, particularly, probably producing more outbreaks of rain. And then we go through into the middle part of next week, still really with low pressure close to the country, so we could have more showers even into the middle part of next week. And day 10, which is Thursday, 20th of October, looks like this. The high pressure for blocking feature that's over Scandinavia now is receding back into western Russia, but we're raising heights, interestingly, in the Atlantic, and it wouldn't take much for this low pressure around Iceland to drop southwards. If that was to happen, with this ridge out to the northwest, we would open the door to northerly winds. Now, the 6 o'clock runner for GFS model doesn't quite get there, but watch this space. It wouldn't take much to open the door in the final week or so of October to a northerly plunge of air. Have a look at the ECWF finally. So there's the easterly wind on Friday. Low pressure is starting to form down to the southwest, maybe increasing the risk of rain at the end of the week. But I think it's more into the weekend that low pressure starts to develop. Particularly on this run, it's out to the west. So it's western parts, as are suggested, have quite wet conditions at the weekend. Eastern areas might stay dry. But then all parts turn quiet and settle in the start of next week. This is Tuesday, 18th of October, with low pressure out to the northwest. Trying to build a bit of a ridge down to the south, but I think this is quiet and settled for most parts of the country early next week. And then we go up to day 10, when we find ourselves on Thursday, 20th of October, with low pressure up to the north, high pressure out to west, and we're bringing the wind down and the jet stream from the northwest southeast trajectory. So we lose our easterly wind over the weekend and we replace it with a more Atlantic flow, albeit from quite a cool part of the Atlantic. And again, watch out for this low pressure over Iceland. I don't think it'll take much at all to drop that southwards, push this ridge up towards Greenland, and of course the upshot would be to open the door to a northerly wind in the sometime in the final week to 10 days of October. It's not impossible that could happen, and that would obviously bring proper night frost across most parts of the country, possibly even some snow for northern parts of the UK. So we've got to watch out for that, I think, in the final week or so of the month. Coming back to the next week to 10 days, though, we're going to have these easterly winds staying with us through the rest of this week, up to the end of the week, up to Friday. Going to be staying easterly. There'll be showers around, but also a lot of dry weather. Going to be fairly cool as well. Over weekend, I think it'll turn more unsettled. Difficult to say how that happens and how widespread the rain is, but I think we will have more in way of rain over weekend, and that takes us through into start of next week. We lose the easterly wind and probably replace it with a cool west or northwesterly flow early next week. That's how it's looking today anyway. These are quite complex patterns, so it's not all that reliable. So expect changes as we go along through the course of the week, and of course we'll be keeping you up to date at Gaz Weathers. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.